We have Mr. Niranjan Hiranandani, MD of Hiranandani Group, with us. Thank you for joining the show, Mr. Hiranandani.
Hello, good afternoon.
So, the commercial real estate industry had high hopes from the union budget. Top players like you were calling for a mix of tax breaks, regulatory reforms, and infrastructural spending to boost investment. What has been your observation? What do you think about the budget? Share your initial thoughts with us.
I think the budget has been very positive in terms of the growth story for GDP. Overall growth in real estate this year has been double digit. Overall growth in commercial real estate has already been more than 7% growth this year. So overall, it has been extremely positive. As far as this budget is concerned, affordable housing had seen a backseat in the last 6 to 8 months. And I think the focus of the PMAY scheme to bring interest subvention, PMAY scheme back into the fourth in a very large way, 11 lakh crores, this big amount. And they're targeting to see that the affordable housing scheme would again make its way back into the marketplace. So I think overall that seems to be a very, very big positive as far as the real estate is concerned. Second, we have been asking for rental housing uh, possibilities, but they have brought it into force, but with very limited means of dormitory for industrial workers as such. We were looking at it across the board in terms of service industry, in terms of education, and all the other segments of rental markets. But that has, of course, not happened to the extensive way. But I believe this is the first year where rental housing is being taken into thing. The third important thing, which I think is now getting recognized, is the overdose of taxes which have come from the state level. Higher stamp duties, development charges, and others have been bought into the real estate. And in Mumbai, in certain places, 50% of the cost of the house actually goes into additional charges and taxes paid to the state government, local authority, and stamp duty. So I think
Right.
some moderation in that is coming in. That's the advice which has been given. And the urban areas, focus of infrastructure like metro in Mumbai, other cities which they are targeting to bring in more infrastructure, all this and more is going to be important. So, and I think a part of the PMAY scheme, which has not been stated, is also relating to redevelopment of slums. She's talked about redevelopment, but not specifically mentioned slum. We are hoping that as far as Mumbai is concerned, the redevelopment will also include slum policy that should come in order to give benefit for the purposes of redevelopment. Remember, 50% of my population in Mumbai lives in Jhopatpattis. So we really have a
Right.
long way to go as far as those are concerned. And finally, land records. A big change in land records is targeted both in the rural areas and urban areas. You know, Abhishek, when we go and buy title to the property, so many times 5 years later, we find that our title is not adequately secured. That title digitization and others is sought to be done so that title records both in urban and rural areas are going to be taken up into these things. So I think that is there. And of course, capital gains tax, which was 20%, is now brought down to 12.5%, which for the
Yes,
real
I
estate
was gonna
sector is very
I
good.
was gonna come to that because that
Yeah.
is definitely one thing which has been a long-standing demand,
Yeah,
and
but
the cut
Abhishek,
is
it's not
substantial.
all good. There is a certain withdrawal in terms of resetting the cost of the asset in the terms of those which are held for more than 10 years. There was a reset clause wherein you could take a particular year as a beginning rather than the year
Right.
of purchase. So those who do 2 or 3 years of sale would definitely benefit with this whole thing. But since the reset clause is now sought to be removed, those who have bought say 10, 15 years ago may have to pay little more taxes rather than less taxes. That's what the fine
Please
print is
elaborate,
showing.
Mr.
But we'll
Hiranandani.
have
Please
to see
elaborate
and
on that
study that.
particular aspect.
That is something which I think we will have to study and see, because in some
Right.
cases where the real estate asset is old, then the reset clause which was available to show it as Instead of the cost of the asset time, it was a particular year that was given. Those have to be studied. So in some cases, capital gains tax in real estate may actually go up. But those who hold it for 2, 3, 4, 5 years will certainly have a big benefit in terms of a reduction in the long-term capital gains tax which is taking place. So overall, I think extremely positive. Uh, and I think the focus on employment, I think, and the multiplier effect of employment and skilling and reskilling is extremely good. I think it was very badly needed. And I think this push is going to be extremely important to the country.
Do you think there's going to be any impact, any noticeable impact on the prices of affordable houses?
Well, I think the sale of affordable housing had come down in the last 6, 8 months for two
Yes.
reasons. Number one, interest rates had gone up from 6.5% 2 years ago to 8.5 to 8.7. So I think that was a challenge for many people to buy an affordable house. Number two, the PMAY scheme, which was earlier there, was exhausted. And hence, there was no availability of interest subvention. Today, with this coming back, obviously affordable housing will again come back very quickly. We'll have to see the detailed terms because the price point on the earlier scheme was 45 lakhs. So
Right.
cities like Mumbai, Delhi were not benefited from the affordable housing policy, but we hope that that amount has been increased. We'll have to read the fine print when it comes in terms of policy rollout for the PMAY scheme, which has now been announced, and hopefully that amount will be increased. Our proposal was 75 lakhs or 1 crore of rupees. We hope at least it's 75 lakhs. Then even cities like Mumbai, Delhi, and other metropolitan areas will also stand to benefit.
Right. And before I let you go, Mr. Hiranandani, uh, if you were to rate the budget out of five, what would your rating be?
I think 4.5, super job. I think the economy has taken a real growth. We are the fastest growing nation in the world. We are focusing on the poor. We are looking at the middle class. We're looking at manufacturing. We are going to be internationally competitive. I think all the sectors are go. Now it's a question of implementation, which has to be seen both by the public sector and the private sector. I'm hopeful that in spite of the headwinds that we find all over the world, so many wars and other issues, and even the oil prices still being high, I think India has an opportunity to reach double-digit GDP growth by the end of next year. I think by December next year, we could reach double-digit GDP growth. But of course, agriculture, monsoons, and all these factors would also have to be helpful to us. So we can pray to God and, of course, thank the government for its positive policies. I think that is important. But most important is the employment part. I promise you, I'm not getting skilled workers, Abhishek. Desperate. I don't get carpenters, fitters, plumbers at all. I mean, I don't meet even 25% of my target of these skilled workers. So I'm hoping that with all the growth that we are talking about, we'll be able to at least get enough people, and then those will be employed and lucratively employed and positively employed. I think all these factors are going to be positive for the next year that we go about.
Yeah, I think with the increased, thirst as far as skilling is concerned, that particular gap, which must be filled if India is to meet its target of creating in the vicinity of 10 million jobs per year for the next decade, which is what is needed to absorb all the talent coming out of colleges, then that definitely needs to happen. So, it was great talking to you, Mr. Hiranandani. Once the fine print is out and, there is more to discuss, we will definitely, talk again. So thank you so much for taking out the time and talking to us. Thank you.
Thank you, Abhishek.